The air outside was thick with dark green fumes. Saf made sure the respirator seal was tight around his face before he stepped into the airlock. It was bad. Black, dead tree branches scraped his visor when he wasn't quick enough to duck as he picked his way delicately across the utterly savage landscape. Shells of recently inhabited dwellings loomed silently, facades blistering. That was what struck him most. Aside from his own artificial-sounding breath, there wasn't any other noise. When this place had finally called for aid, it was filled with screams and movement, everyone hurrying to the waiting rescue fleet, strapping masks over their faces, clutching what few possessions they'd scrabbled together. They'd left it far too late. Saf began his descent. Before long, the fumes were thicker. Stopping at the now familiar crater, he peered down. It was filled to the brim with barrels of luminous green waste. He wouldn't need to bring any more here now the settlement was deserted. They could clear this site and mark it as yet another one of their no-go, highly contaminated areas. And the priceless stones running in a giant seam directly underfoot would be ripe for the picking. Hello, and welcome to The Bad Spot, an actual play podcast in which I, Matt Risby, and I alone am playing through Ironsworn Starforged. I hope you enjoyed the tale from the drift that opened up the episode. That was another wonderful bit of flash fiction from the mind of Jen Duck, making her our very first repeat offender. And once again, I would like to offer my sincerest thanks to her for submitting such an amazing short form piece. If you want to write something for me to read at the top of the episode, then why not roll on the oracles and see what inspires you? Then get in touch via the details on screen now. And whilst I have you, why don't you leave a like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you can follow along with the campaign each and every week. Last time out, Archer hit pretty much rock bottom. Having successfully activated the Iron Gate, he hatched an escape plan involving an improvised explosive device that he cobbled together from his field kit. Now that plan worked to a point, but the explosion was much bigger and more powerful than he had first expected. One of the guards was killed in the blast, and the other was sent hurtling through the Iron Gate to who knows where. But Archer was also blown across the room and sent crashing into a hard metal wall, dropping his health to 0, meaning that we are having to roll continuously on the special Endure Harm table to see if his condition worsens, stabilizes, or, God forbid, improves. He drags himself out of the room and across the hall, where he is confronted by an armed guard. Without the physical strength to fight, he faces them down anyway, but the guard is revealed to be Luna, who has escaped under her own steam and come to rescue Archer. As the two attempt to leave the compound, they find it completely deserted, with the fortress of Paxton Hold emptied of soldiers, as a Clanthorn warship has entered the atmosphere, ready for battle. So the clan war has come to us. What has to this point existed in the abstract, something that is raging in the distance, in the far off galaxy, is now very real and right here. Clanthorn has discovered Blake Sutton's whereabouts, discovered the fortress of Paxton Hold, and have come to snuff them out. So let's envision this a little bit. So we were gagged and bound and hooded when we arrived, so we didn't get much of a chance to take in the environment. But now Archer and Luna are standing at the entrance to the hall at the top of the steps, with the flags fluttering beside them. Down those obsidian black steps is the compound. Now Paxton Hold is a fortress, and it's got these high defensive walls running in a circle around several large buildings. There's a hall behind us, and it makes sense that if this is a military installation, that there are barracks and maybe some other buildings like a mess hall, for example. Now, maybe between those buildings there are several smaller buildings that probably have I don't know, some administrative purpose. And it makes sense that there are watchtowers. Let's say there are 4 watchtowers around the compound, each with a mounted gun. But everyone has left. Everyone has left through the large, heavy double gates. The convoy of tracked vehicles and hoverbikes is kicking up a plume of grey-brown dust as it heads off in the direction of the Thorn Dreadnought. And the Dreadnought has begun to deploy a swarm of snub fighters and landing craft that is blackening the sky. And the two of them take this in. And Luna says, "This is bad." And she's looking around to see if there's any kind of vehicle left, anything at all. How likely is it? I personally don't think very likely, but we will ask the Oracle anyway. Should we say unlikely? Seems fair. Okay. Are there any vehicles left? 64 is no. There are no vehicles left, no means of escape other than on foot. And Luna says, "This is real bad." So, what's our play here? I think we need to hail Griff somehow, right? We know he's out there. And Archer is in bad shape. He can't fight. He is pretty much dead weight. Luna would have to do everything on her own, pretty much. So, we have nothing. We're in bad shape. How are we going to hail Griff? Maybe one of these smaller buildings has some functioning comms capabilities. Is that likely? Should we see if that's the case? I think it's pretty likely because this is a military installation. So let's ask the Oracle. Has this fortress got some kind of functioning comms capability? 43 is yes. Okay, so maybe one of these smaller buildings off the mess hall has like a comms array on the roof, like a small selection of antennas and maybe a little silver dish or something that's kind of spinning around slowly. And Archer spots it and kind of points a finger feebly in the direction of this little hut. And Luna takes a moment to kind of see what he's pointing at and then kind of works it out, but she's more occupied with the dreadnought and the sky that is filling with attack craft. But she starts walking Archer down the black steps and across the compound. And she can see in the distance that the snub fighters are strafing the ground where Blake's convoy is heading, and Luna can see that the convoy is returning fire on the move, and that the dreadnought is, just for now, just kind of hanging there, just kind of ominously in the atmosphere. And I think that maybe the dreadnought might be more like a carrier. I don't think this is a ship that has kind of ultimate firepower that can erase a whole settlement or a whole planet. I feel like this is much more of a kind of tactical platform that can launch smaller ships and attack craft. And that seems to be exactly what the dreadnought is doing. Where do we think Blake is actually going, though? Well, I said that when Luna and Archer emerged from the hall, they found the fortress of Paxton Hold emptied, abandoned. And as you'll find is usually the case with me, I said so because I thought it would be kind of cool and dramatic. But now I've got to make narrative sense. This is what writers call accruing narrative debt. And like all debts, you have to pay it off. So how are we going to pay that off? Why would they abandon Paxton Hold? It can't be an offensive maneuver. They are hopelessly outmanned. They are hugely outgunned. They are really on the back foot. So it's not an offensive maneuver. That would be suicide. But also, Paxton Hold is a fairly well entrenched defensive position. Why would they abandon that? They've also secured a iron gate at that location. Again, something they've abandoned. So why would they go and just leave it? It's a great question. And could it be that there's an evacuation craft somewhere else on the planet? Does that make sense? Does it make sense that maybe there's like a hidden hangar somewhere else away from the fortress? Because the fortress was built around the gate, right? So maybe that was just an inconvenient place to also have your like spaceships parked. Yeah, I think that there is kind of an underground hangar somewhere, and that is where they've gone. They have evacuated the fortress because they are so hopelessly outmatched, because they are kind of so hopelessly overpowered. And I think that that's their call. They have had to abandon the gate and get to their evacuation craft. So anyway, back to Archer and Luna. So Luna kind of drags Archer across the compound. His legs are useless. They're just not working. Not offering anything by way of assistance. But she hustles him the best that she can across the compound towards the comm shed. And what does it look like? Let's describe it. So I think it's a small offshoot building, and I think shed is accurate here. And it's fashioned out of the same kind of sheet metal material that the rest of the compound is made of, which I kind of envision as like I don't know what the word for it is, but like what you'd see temporary staging made out of, you know, like at a concert or a gig. In Starship Troopers, there's a bit where they go to the outpost towards the end, and it's kind of like a prefabricated fortress, like it's come out of a box, like it's from IKEA, like a flat pack fortress. Do any of you know what I'm talking about? I really don't mind if you don't, but that's what I'm thinking. Okay, anyway, so the comms shed is a small building, and let's say it's 4 meters square. The door is open because everyone left in a hurry. And it has desks running along 3 of its walls, with a large screen on the wall directly opposite the door where you enter. The desks have got consoles and monitors, and they're all still displaying the proximity alerts that must have triggered when the dreadnought arrived. And Archer kind of looks at it quickly, and he thinks this should do the job. He should be able to hail just about anyone on the planet using this. And Luna drags him across the floor and pulls a chair close and kind of shovels him into it. And then she drops down to his level and says, "I'm going to be right back, okay?" Because I think she's got to go looking for some kind of medical help, right? Some kind of like med pack or stims or something, because if she doesn't stabilize Archer, then he's going to have to keep rolling on that table, and that's no good. So Archer just kind of weakly nods and starts tapping on one of the keyboards. And Luna gives him one last concerned look before she leaves. And Archer is left alone in the comm shed. His breathing is laboured. I think something inside his body is just completely broken, just not working at all. But he pours every ounce of focus he has into working this console and staying conscious. And what move do we think it is here to try and hail Griff? Well, I think it's probably gather information. And we're searching for clues. We're searching for Griff. We're trying to figure out where he is. So, yeah, let's roll that up. So it's gather information, specifically trying to figure out where Griff is. So rolling plus wits. That is a strong hit. A strong hit. So even when he is knocking on death's door Archer is able to keep his wits about him. Okay, we take +2 momentum on a strong hit, so we are up to +9 momentum now, which is very, very nice. That should help us out, and Lord knows we need a break. So, what does this moment of success look like? I think that Archer is desperately trying to stay awake, desperately trying to stay conscious. And he blinks hard and tries to concentrate on the screen, which kind of comes in and out of focus as his head swims. He's still drowsy from the blast. Every part of his body is in agony, but he just about keeps it together enough to use the console to lock on to the Eclipse's transponder. And he looks up at the screen on the wall, which kind of displays a top-down, quite kind of basic view of the planet's surface, with Paxton Hold in the middle. And not far away, what can only be described as the Clan Thorn Dreadnought is on the map too. And you can see dozens and dozens of smaller dots on the map, kind of swirling around, clearly representing the craft that the Dreadnought has dispatched. But off to the far side of the map, some considerable distance away, there's an entirely different type of dot. It is stationary. And I think because we rolled a strong hit here, I can be a little generous with the information that I gleaned, I think that Archer looks at the map, he looks at the dot, and he quickly kind of sizes up where that dot is in relation to some landmarks, maybe the super volcano that we saw, and he ascertains that the Eclipse is back on the landing pad. So back where we originally touched down, where Griff last took off from and flew away to throw off those bounty hunters. So basically Griff has just essentially circled round and ended up back there. Maybe he went all the way around the planet, who knows, but he is back there sitting, doing nothing. And Archer is relieved, to say the least. And he kind of quickly grabs up a headset and puts it on. And he tries to hail Griff over the comms. Griff? Griff? Come in, Griff. And there's no response. We've been here before. Come in, Griff. Look, I need you to hear me. We could do with an evac. Nothing. Nothing at all. And this is taking a huge effort from Archer. Griff, if you're out there, I need you. We need you. We're in trouble. Griff? Come in, Griff. And Archer has never been so thrilled to hear those beeps. Griff, get to our location now. I'm sending you the coordinates. What do you mean? Yeah, she's okay. Why? I'm fine too, thanks for asking. Just get here. And whilst Archer is briefly energized by this turn of good fortune, what worries him is looking at the map. There's this huge swirling mess, this throng of ships dive bombing the convoy, and that is what's standing between Griff and Archer's location, and that is what Griff is going to have to fly straight through. But like I said, he's energized by this turn of good fortune, and also, and he will never admit this, by the fact that he heard Griff's little robotic beeps. And he goes to stand and realizes that he's still very much in bad shape and instantly collapses back into his chair. So, what does that endure harm table say again? that table of death that we've been rolling on. Now, what, we have to roll on it if we attempt something vigorous? Was this vigorous? Intellectually vigorous, maybe. The thing is, I kind of want to roll on this table again. I received quite a few comments about choosing to roll on the table last time, and choosing to roll on it with the possibility of death rather than just taking a condition and definitely staying alive. And I just want to say that it may seem like an unnecessarily risky and stupid thing to have done, and that's because it is. It's really stupid, it's very risky, but the risk is the juice, isn't it? Don't pretend that's not why you're tuning in. But I don't think that hailing Griff and looking at this map necessarily qualifies as vigorous, so I think we won't roll on the table again, much to my dismay. So Luna returns to find Archer kind of slouched at the console, exhausted by the effort of just simply tapping a few keys. Now, did she manage to find some medical supplies? Shall we ask the Oracle? What are the odds? What are the odds that she found some medical supplies? Like 50-50? There's got to be like an infirmary or something. And whilst they left in a hurry, they've got to have left something behind. So let's say 50-50. So, did Luna find some medical supplies? 68 is yes. Okay, so Luna stands in the doorway, and Archer looks up at her. She looks concerned, and she seems to always look at him like this, so he figures he must look bad. But he says, "It's going to be okay. Griff is on the way." And that doesn't seem to do anything to kind of ease that look of concern on her face. And he says again, "Griff is on the way. Didn't you hear me?" And Luna just says, "I'm sorry." And Archer says, "What?" And that's when he notices that she's holding something in her hand. It's a tube, about 6 inches long. And it ends in a fat, short needle. And she says, "I think this is going to hurt." And she moves quickly over to him. She pushes him backwards in his chair and holds him steady by the shoulder with her left hand, and she raises up her right hand, in which she clutches this big, fat needle, a needle that is now being plunged with great force into Archer's chest. So this is what emergency field medicine looks like. We've got Luna, who is administering, by force, a shot of adrenaline or whatever, space adrenaline, right into Archer's heart. And this has to work. This really has to work because we can't possibly go below zero. So this feels like a very, very drastic, very suitably drastic intervention. So this is going to be a heal move. And we are on the other end of the needle. So we'll be receiving treatment from someone else. So rolling plus iron. And I think that we can rely on our connection with Luna to get a +1 on this. So rolling plus iron on a heal with a +1. Fingers crossed. So that's a miss. Okay, so that momentum I said would come in handy. I think we are going to burn that here. So momentum goes from 9, resets down to 2. So that makes this miss a strong hit. Now, I'd just like to say at this point, it doesn't matter how we got the strong hit. All that's important is that we got a strong hit. Now, on a strong hit, the move says the care is helpful. If you are wounded, clear the impact and take or give +2 health. Otherwise, take or give +3 health. So that seems good, right? But just look, it says, if you were wounded, clear the condition and take 2 health. Well, I'm not wounded. I chose to roll on the table instead of taking the wounded condition, and as a result, I'm taking +3 health rather than just +2 health. So you could say that stupid, needless risk has paid off to the tune of +1 health. So to all those who questioned my rationale, I humbly accept your apologies. And with that, my health pops up to a much more palatable +3. So this needle plunges into Archer's chest, and after a second, he comes instantly back into the world of the living. He takes this huge, gasping breath as he suddenly feels his body coming back online in a flash. The pain is replaced by this shock of electric sensation coursing through his whole body, and suddenly he's up, he's standing again, he's ready, and he's got a great big needle sticking out of his chest. And Luna is kind of watching in shock. I don't think she quite expected it to work that well. Plus, I think there's an element in play here that she knows that Archer's body is still like horrendously broken, and he needs urgent medical care from a professional, because that shot of adrenaline that she just gave him, or whatever it was, that's going to wear off. And for now, it's just masking the pain, albeit very effectively. But I think she knows deep down, they're in real trouble if they don't get proper medical care soon. So Archer turns to look at the screen again, and he can see that Griff has made it through the carnage, and he can see that signal, the signal of the eclipse moving rapidly across the map. So we have a ride. Archer is back on his feet. For how long? Who knows? And it looks like we're getting out of here, but I think that shot to the heart has finally reached Archer's brain, and he's suddenly very much aware that they can't leave. They can't leave without that map, without the information that Blake Sutton possesses, the map of the Iron Gate network. Because without that, they can't do anything to stop either clan coming in possession of the weapon. They will get there eventually. And I think that this may be the first time that Archer has thought this. I think that's the first time that he has put this thought into a wider context, a context beyond some quest that he's on or some job that he's doing. The clan wars have never been his concern, but having dealt very painfully with 2 of them now, he is none too keen to have any of them in control of something that has immense mystical power. And I think maybe it's tied into the fact that when he felt a bit of that power, when he became connected with the Iron Gate, when he activated it, he could sense that potential. He could sense how powerful it was. And I think that set something in his mind racing. Maybe that idea that such power can't or shouldn't be harnessed. It can't be used responsibly or for good. And it's this moment, after the shot to the heart, that Archer realizes that he has to do something for someone other than himself. And to do that something, he needs that map. Now, they all left in a hurry, right? And I'm not going to say, Blake just left under a mattress or whatever. That's really lazy. But I also don't want to have it as a quest to find this map and be chasing another MacGuffin across the forge for lots of episodes. So, what is a middle ground? What should we do? Shall we say that whilst Blake has the map to the network in its entirety on her person, I think that maybe there's some part of it left here, like maybe even in the comm shed. Like maybe there is a small part of the network map that's been marked out on the wall. Maybe like it was being analysed. And it's by no means even like a 10th of the information that Archer needs, but it's something. This little snippet. Yeah, maybe there's the location of like another gate in this sector. Maybe like they got to this planet, they found this gate, but that was the one they were going to go to next. But yeah, let's say that's the information that he gleaned. So maybe like on this map, there's also like a mess of formulas and theorems that have been written on it, kind of positing how the gates might be connected. And I think that's enough information for Archer to get them going, to get him and Luna going, to get them on the road. And he pulls it down off the wall and kind of folds it into his satchel. And Luna says, "Shall we?" And they head outside. And that's when they realise that the sound of war is kind of getting closer. So they head over to the barracks. The barracks have these kind of wide, flat roofs. And that'll be kind of like a great spot for Griff to kind of swing in and pick them up from. And they climb an access ladder on the side of the building and get up onto the roof. And from there, they can kind of have this really clear view across the landscape. The Clanthorn ships circle and swoop in the distance, kind of unleashing volley upon volley of laser fire at unseen targets on the ground. And they can't see the convoy anymore, it's just not visible. So it either must have split up or gone to ground or whatever. So Archer takes out his little scope and kind of searches for the eclipse. The air is thick with ash and smoke, both from the kind of volcanic environment and the kind of raging exchanges of fire. And he can make out dozens of snub fighters kind of diving to and fro. And you can also see that like some of those larger landing craft have made planetfall, and Clanthorn must have many pairs of boots on the ground. And he can see kind of up in the atmosphere that the dreadnought is just poised, still waiting. And that is when the gloom is suddenly punctured by a dazzling beam of blue light. It comes from somewhere deep in the earth, somewhere beneath the surface, and it streaks up into the sky, up into the atmosphere, where it strikes the dreadnought on its underside. And there is a low rumble, quickly followed by the beam reappearing on the other side of the dreadnought. It has punched clean through the hull of this mighty ship and is now continuing out into space beyond. And the Thorn dreadnought slowly begins to dip. Its prow kind of tilts towards the planet's surface. And then the sky is filled with even more ships, but this time coming from under the ground, coming from the planet, from the very source of that blue beam. These are large ships, maybe half a dozen, taken to the sky, making a run for it. This was Blake Sutton's Gambit all along. They have, hidden underground somewhere, this powerful surface-to-air weapon, and that weapon has bought them a chance to escape, and against all odds, they seem to be making a go for it. And in the panic, the snub fighters scatter at this kind of blow to their flagship, and Blake's fleet takes flight, speeding up, and into the atmosphere. And the dreadnought is helpless to stop them. Archer sees through his scopes kind of escape pods showering from its hull as this great warship comes crashing down, just moments from smashing into the planet's surface. It is a suitably apocalyptic scene, and certainly not one you see every day. Blake's fleet has made it past the dreadnought, made it out of the atmosphere and into space, and that's where Archer watches them disappear into the drift, leaving nothing but ribbons of red and purple streaking in their wake. And in all that chaos, in all the smoke and fire, the eclipse emerges. Archer has never been so happy to see those distinctive gull wings, and in a matter of seconds, the ship is right on them. Griff is here, in the eclipse, to lift them to safety. And they kind of frantically wave their hands as the ship circles, and Griff brings it in above them, kind of lowers the landing ramp. It's not steady, but Luna manages to kind of clamber up, and she stops to reach out her hand to help Archer aboard. With this almighty heave, she pulls him up and onto the ramp, and she thumps the metal with her hand, and Griff retracts the ramp. As it rises up into the ship, Archer grabs Luna by the shoulder. He kind of fixes her with these kind of wide eyes, and he says, "We have to do something." "What?" "We have to find that weapon. We have to reach it before anyone else does." "And then what?" "I don't know, but something. We have to do something." And Luna says, "Something is good enough. You know what to do." And Archer takes out his compass, and I think he is going to swear an iron vow. And this could be the most important iron vow that he ever swears. So let's give it a name and a rank. So let's call it Find the Mythical Weapon Using the Iron Gates. And what rank shall we give it? I think extreme is appropriate. We've not had an extreme rank before, so let's do it. It's not epic, so it is achievable, but it is harder than anything else we've done so far. I think it's appropriate. So let's swear this thing. Rolling plus heart. That's a miss. Got no momentum, so I'm going to have to eat that one. So on a miss, you face a significant obstacle before you can make progress on your quest. Envision what stands in your way and do what you must to overcome this obstacle. So like I said, no momentum to burn. We use that just staying alive, so we have no obvious way to wriggle out of this one. So what obstacle should we face? What is going to get in our way before we can make progress on our quest? I think I have an idea. You won't like it, but I have an idea. Okay, so Archer closes his eyes and grips the compass tightly. And he's feeling something he has not felt in a long time. A sense of purpose. A sense of connection. Connection to something outside of himself. And he doesn't know if the connection is to the energy of the gates, or that he's suddenly feeling some greater connection to this kind of found family of Luna and Griff. But he feels it, and it is sincere. He's determined to do this. He has uncovered more details about the professor. He has learned to unlock the iron gates. He has found something worth fighting for and found something worth fighting against. He feels empowered. He feels invigorated. For the first time in a long time, the vow that he has sworn is not one of obligation. It's one of duty. And that's when the ship rocks violently. Not once, but twice. And Luna says, "Did we hear something?" And Archer says, "Oh no." And Archer gets to his feet and races through the ship, up through cargo and into the cockpit. Luna follows close behind, and they both stop and stare through the windscreen at two sleek, metallic snub fighters circling back around and moving towards the eclipse, moving with speed, moving into attack position. And Luna says, "You fly, I'll man the guns." And that's when Archer slowly turns to her. And Luna says, "This ship has guns, right?" Right? Thank you a million times. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe if you have not done so already, and click the little bell icon so you won't miss a single moment of this campaign. I'll be back next week, but until then, it's farewell and safe passage.